Hello out there, my name is Evas Kansime Atwine. I'm the family therapist and relationship coach at the International Center for Family Care. The International Center for Family Care, we implement family-focused programs, and this is one of them. I'm really excited to be speaking about relationships and dating. And I'm sure singles out there, you'll be pleased to be a part of us in this, on this journey, because we are going to be running a series. And I just want to interest you, please listen in. Why am I talking about dating and relationships? Because relationships form the way you manage your dating process, the way you manage your relationship, has a very big implication on the marriage you'll have later on. And so I'm very excited to be speaking to you about successful dating. How does it look like? How does a healthy relationship look like? How does a healthy marriage look like? Let me just answer the question, why are we talking about this? I already mentioned that relationship and dating, they form a foundation. And foundation is everything in life. When we are building houses, a foundation is everything. You have seen houses collapse because the foundation wasn't well laid. And so when I'm talking about this, I have this experience of marriages and the kind of challenges we are having, and most of them point to the kind of relationships we had at dating stage. So I'm really, really happy to be talking to you. Secondly, I'm sure you have been following media reports about what is happening out there in the world. But you also know the breakups. You know, we have breakups. I talk to so many young people and so many singles and so many married. And so I know what is going on, the breakups. People are into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 relationships, and they are not working and they are frustrated. And unfortunately, we haven't been addressing these issues really, really well. So I'm here, and please stick with me. Secondly, the confusion around dating. There's so much confusion, so much conflicting information around dating. And so you have so many questions out there. You don't know what the right thing is to do. So again, please stick with us. We're going to have a whole series. Thirdly, you have been following media reports about death, the suicides, the murders that are happening around relationships. University students and so many young people have been victims of this. And so therefore, it is so important that we talk about this. And again, I avail myself to talk about this. I cannot wait to share all this information with you. But the most intriguing one, I love statistics. According to the recent survey, or surveys, about 44% of young people under age 30 believe that marriages are obsolete. They are old-fashioned. They believe marriages are really old-fashioned. They believe marriages are no longer necessary. They believe it's impossible to have a good relationship and a good marriage in the 21st century. Now, this is absolutely intriguing. Therefore, I want to start it off with a message of hope. I want to tell you, first of all, it is possible to have a good relationship and good marriage in the 21st century. It is absolutely possible. As it were, it is possible now. Number two, men and women need each other. I've heard people say, oh, you know, now we know men and women no longer need each other, so we can just... I hope you have come to this realization that men and women need each other. We just need to work out a way of peaceful coexistence. And that's when we talk relationships, that's exactly what we are talking about. Number three, good and healthy relationships have nothing to do with the 21st century. We can still manage. We can still manage it well. The principles of relationship management have not changed. So as long as we know them, we're going to do them. And again, I really believe we haven't given this area adequate attention, and That's why I'm really excited to be speaking to you. Let me just share something about the marriage and family landscape statistics, because it's very important for us to know what we are talking about. You probably are aware that the divorce rates have been going so high. Since the 1960s, we have a 25% increase in divorce rates. That is absolutely scary, absolutely scary. When you look at statistics, 50% an average, this is an average figure, 50% of the marriages end in divorce. And can I also tell you, this is irrespective of whether we are believers, Christians or not, the divorce rates are going high. This is extremely scary. And I'll be running a session on the effect of divorce and separation on the family. But for now, I'm just giving you statistics. That is absolutely scary. Just again, I've pulled out the divorce rates per country, just a few countries. We have some of them which have a divorce rate as high as 87%. 87% of all the marriages end in divorce. In countries like Luxembourg, Spain, and France, 55%, German, 44%, USA, 46%. But we also have our divorce rates here in Uganda, 12%. Now, I have to tell you, I have to warn you as a statistician that probably don't believe so much in this figure. I'm sure it has gone higher. It has gone higher. And even if it hasn't, also, yes, we may not have a high divorce rate here, but the quality of relationships is wanting. Specifically for Uganda, divorce rates have tripled since 2009. Okay? And what is very interesting here, or what is of interest to us, is that some of the marriages last as short as 8 months. Within 8 months, people are preparing for divorce. That's absolutely scary. This trend is attributed to a number of key factors, which I got from all the literature that we have. One of them is infidelity. That's a big factor. Number 2 is greed for property management among the partners or between the partners. Number 3, inadequate preparation for marriage relationships. Now, this is extremely, extremely important. And this actually pushed me to get into relationship management, because I really feel we get people, some of us parents, we only speak to children about marriage just a few months when they've told you they are dating. Then you go, oh my God, you need to manage this and manage that. There's no preparation. I know that some churches have really done a good job of marriage preparation, like St. Francis Chapel Makerere. There's a whole program integrated into the church programs to prepare couples. But again, just imagine, just 3 months, 3 months prior to your marriage or family establishment, you're just being prepared, right? And as I mentioned, some parents don't talk about relationships at all until later on. So this is extremely, extremely important. Imagine this whole institution of marriage, you're only told a few things. I can still remember the few things I was told as part of marriage preparation or counseling, just a few, but they are just sending you to this huge institution to manage. I'll be talking about marriage as a management platform in another series, but for now I want to just imagine this whole establishment you're thrown into and you're told just a few things. Be like this, be like this, all quick fixes. So inadequate preparation for marriage relationships, and I strongly believe it, that's a major cause of all the statistics we've been looking at. One other major reason that people present for divorce and separation is what they call irreconcilable differences. Irreconcilable differences. And others call it incompatibility. So again, as we progress on this journey, we'll be talking about compatibility. What does it mean and how can we attain it? But just so you know that 44% of all the divorce cases present irreconcilable differences or what they call incompatibility as a major issue. Now, all these issues point to relationship management, and once again, it's so important that we talk about this. I was also looking at domestic violence statistics. Very interesting that nearly 80% of the victims of domestic violence do not leave their abusers. What does this say to you? And I know that a number of people out there are stuck in abusive relationships. This is what it means. How do you manage it? Can you imagine somebody is being beaten and abused and assaulted, but they cannot leave? What does it mean? It speaks to the complexity of some of these relationships we are talking about. And so we need to give it a lot of attention to understand what are we to do, how are we to manage relationships. So relationship management, it's at the heart of everything we are talking about, whether marriage, whether dating, and the skills and principles we have to apply, they stand, and that's what I'll be talking about. Let me just give you fundamental truth before I answer the few questions that came through. Fundamental truth. One, love is the foundation of our relationships. Again, I will be talking, as we progress, I'll be talking about the difference between love and infatuation. Infatuation and love are not the same thing. But let's just take love at its basic level. Love, we are in love, we love each other, and, you know, that's it. It's the foundation of everything, unless you are unless you're raped or something. But we are talking about love being at the core of these relationships. Number two, and this is disappointing news because every time I share it, people go like, what are you saying? Love alone does not guarantee a happy relationship or a happy marriage. Did you hear that? Let me repeat it. Love alone does not guarantee a happy marriage or a happy relationship. Can I assure you that even all these people you see, those who murder their spouses, those who are beating them up, they were in love, or they are in love, if you wish. They were in love at some point. They were madly in love. But this is happening. So that tells you that love requires management. Love has to have a foundation. There are certain things that you have to do to sustain love. So you can't say, oh, I'm just marrying someone because we are in love. No, that is the foundation, but there are certain other things you have to pay attention to. And that's going to form a core of all our conversations. Number three, everyone wants a good relationship. I have been sharing about the importance of good relationships, and let me say it once again. Did you know that good relationships contribute 90% to our happiness? I know that we give 90% to material things, looking for money. Now, that's important. It has its place. It just contributes 10% to your fulfillment and happiness in life. Relationships, healthy, non-toxic, healthy relationships contribute 90% to your wellness. So it's so important that we pay attention to this. And everyone desires a good relationship. Even when we have all these material things, we need people. We are created for relationships. So that's very important. So remember, love is the foundation. Number two, love alone does not guarantee good relationships. Number three, everyone desires a good relationship. How to achieve it is another issue. How to achieve it is another issue. And that's what we are going to be addressing during these sessions. Number four, no one is perfect. We don't have perfect people in this world. So while we desire or crave to relate with people, this is an important fact. And unfortunately, we keep it in the background, or maybe we don't know, and then we keep going looking for perfect people. There's no perfect person in this world. Each one of us is a pack of pluses and negatives, weaknesses and strength. And so when we choose to partner with someone, you have to know that they are full package, they are complete package, they are a pack of positives and negatives. And the earlier you know, the better. Again, that's something I'm going to talk about. Just so you take it that each person is work in progress. Number 5, no one marries a spouse to kill. I mean, I showed you the statistics. No one wants that. No one wants to take their spouses to police cells. All these happen as inevitables. I'm just talking about relationships and relationship management. I already mentioned that men and women need each other, so I will not repeat that. But let me make this very, very important point, that things that build good relationships are seemingly simple, cost-free, but extremely important. And because they are so simple, and human nature doesn't believe in simplicity, we love to complicate things. Now, when I'm sharing some of the tips I'll be sharing, you'll think, are you sure that's what it is? You complicate it, you get into a complication. So things that build good relationships are basically simple, and they are just about being a good human being. All right? So I've shared this to just form a foundation for all the conversations that we are going to have. And so at this point, let me just answer the questions that came through, and I would like to say thank you to people who sent these questions. Number 1, somebody asked, looking at all the marriage breakups, relationship breakups, all the challenges that we are having, what happened? Is it that people no longer love? What's happening? Now, let me answer you that my response to this is what I already mentioned, that love has to be sustained by relationship management. And unfortunately, poor relationship management skills, or what we call the laws of relational physics, which I will talk about, poor relationship management skills, which I'm going to unpack as we go along, they are an answer to the situation we've just talked about. I told you, no one wants to go through the hassle of a wedding and all of a sudden they are breaking up. No one wants to date and then they have so many exes behind them. No one wants that. It's the inevitable. And the inevitable is what we are coming in to address. Why? Poor relationship management skills. That's number 1. Number 2, we've got a wrong message in life generally. Some people believe life is easy. Life is not easy. Life is not easy. Relationships are not easy. Okay? Marriage is not easy. I just want to be very, very clear on that. Any person getting into marriage that it's easy, it's not easy. Any person getting into a relationship, it's not easy. If you can't manage one life, just imagine you add another life to yourself. That's not easy. It comes with a lot of management. And I was just sharing with someone this afternoon that anything that requires management is very hard, okay? If some of you who are working, you know that it's much easier to work at officer level than at a manager level when you're managing people. Anything that requires management is complicated. Now, we have, my message is, please get the message clear. It is management. And I'm going to be talking about a lot of management, relationship management skills. This is extremely important to know that don't thrive on a wrong message of happily married forever. No, it's not happily married forever. It is complicated. And the degree of your joy and fulfillment from a relationship is going to come from the fact that you manage the relationship. Number 2, somebody asked, how do you choose the right partner? It begins with the chooser. The person choosing, who are you? What is a right partner to you? What's your personal brand? You can't just throw yourself in a sea of uncertainty and just pull out the right partner. I want to emphasize that it begins with you. You who is trying to choose the right partner. Who are you? What are your values? What is your value system? I keep talking to people about this. What's your value system? What's your brand? What's your personal brand? And when we talk about values system or values, what's your standard of right and wrong? Because you're trying to choose the right partner. But how does the right partner look like according to you? You see, you're the starting point. You are the starting point. If you don't have a personal brand, then it's going to be very difficult. You're not going to be able to define right or wrong. And so the starting point is you. What is your value system? Again, a standard of right and wrong. Number 3, what are your non-negotiables? In that set of right and wrong, what are some of those things that you don't negotiate? You know, you say, this is me. When I say this is me, I'm a Christian, I'm this, I'm that, I'm that. Then, on the basis of this, then I choose a right partner. Because remember, I've told you, relationships, it's management. It's not love, you know, the other love that you understand. Yes, you have love as a foundation, but it has to be sustained. I have already told you that even those people who are madly in love, they probably are in the police cells because of murder or whatever, not because they didn't have love, but because they didn't manage. So some of these things we are talking about, they speak to your management system. What are your non-negotiables? When you're choosing a life partner, you define your non-negotiables, then it throws out a number of people, right? You can't have the whole population as your available candidates for choosing a right partner. What's your belief system? What do you believe in? What's your worldview on a number of things? You know, and when we talk about some of these things, they say, you know, what do you mean? Somebody was asking me, but does religion matter? I said, yes, it matters. In marriage and relationships, everything matters. Everything matters. So, where do you stand? How about your personal goals and your personal goals? Which ones are they? And when you're choosing a partner, are they going to affect them? Are they going to advance them? Once again, I want to tell you, everything in life matters. In marriage matters. In relationship matters. So you cannot run with love only. These things matter. If you're going to choose the right life partner, it begins with you. And I'm going to be sharing a few more tips on that. But for now, I just want to tell you, for this first session, I want to tell you first, deal with yourself. Deal with yourself. Define your personal brand. Who are you? Number 3, what is the secret to a successful relationship, you know, that ends in a good marriage? Number 1, any relationship to survive, to end in marriage and a good marriage, it has to have a relationship goal. Why am I talking about this? I've spoken to a number of young people in universities, in other settings, and I get to hear some of the statements that some people are in a relationship which is just for just. Okay? Now, if you want a relationship that is going to end in a good marriage, it had better have a goal. What's the goal of your relationship? Do you just date for dating? Excuse me. Do you date because your friends are dating? Do you get into this relationship because you think you're old or mature? Some people confuse maturity with being grown. Is it because you have left university and you have to just jump into any relationship? What is the goal of your relationship? When you're getting into this, what are you up to? What do you want to achieve? If it's going to end in a good marriage, it has to have a very clear goal. The moment you don't have this, you're going to hit and run. If you define your goal, it's also going to determine who comes into your life. Because at a certain point, I'm going to be sharing with you the 4 categories of men and 4 types of women. Just so you know that all these people you see, they are not up to the same thing. If you have a relationship goal of marriage, there are certain relationships you're not going to get into. You just bump into someone, they say they are having fun, and you say, this is possibly not the kind of relationship I should get into. Okay? So relationship goal is very important. Avoid just relationships. Number 2, take time to understand the person. When I talk about this, I'm going to talk about this in every series because it's foundational. Take your time to understand. Remember, if you're aiming at marriage, you're going to be living with this person forever. So there's no need to rush. Most of the time, young people, singles, have rushed into a relationship, taken it to another level before they even understand the person you're dealing with. Okay? I have been talking about, and I'm going to talk about premarital sex, but let me just mention it. You get someone, you haven't even understood them. You don't even know their second name fully, and you have already acted wife or husband to this person. You don't know what their struggles. You don't understand their background. You don't know how they were raised. I told you that if we are going to live with imperfect people in this world, you just have to know knowledge about this person, about what concerns them, about their struggles, relate with them, understand how they manage life, how they manage anger, how they manage conflict, how they manage disappointments, and all this. All this gets into whether your relationship will be successful or not. So if you're going to have a successful relationship that ends in a good marriage, please take time. Let me mention the very final issue here, or my advice for today on this area. Please be sure not to act husband and wife before time. I'm going to sound really weird because I'm very sure a number of you singles out there are saying, what do you mean? What do you mean in the 21st century? When you date, you have to... I know that there's so much premarital sex happening. And of course, I get to speak to a number of young people or singles. And unfortunately, most of them are frustrated because they've gotten into multiple relationships. One hasn't worked out. They had taken it to another level. Another one hasn't worked out. They have taken it to another level. By the 4th relationship, they are suffering what we call emotional depletion. Some of them are very angry. They can no longer attach to anyone. That's why you hear statements of all men are like that, all women are like that. It's because they are nursing an emotional depletion, and this affects them later on. It affects you later because once you suffer from a lack of trust, because trust is important. When you date someone, you trust them. But if you're carrying a baggage of broken relationships, it can be a problem. Number 2, why we encourage people not to get into, not to act husband and wife, giving those privileges when you're not yet sure, is that most people have gotten stuck. Some of you out there are stuck in relationships because either you're pregnant or you have already taken this to another level, and so you're wondering, all the people that have seen you and everything. So you're stuck in this relationship, and so you're running after someone to commit because you just have to cover this and make sure that it works. This is extremely dangerous because when we talk about, I'll be talking about the right and wrong partner, choice of a partner in another session. But just so you know that if you are stuck in a relationship, that's not the right partner for you. And it's most likely going to be very rocky as you go forward. if you're trying to make a relationship successful so that it ends in marriage, and the reason why you should avoid premarital sex is that it affects your judgment. The moment you get emotional on matters of logic, you're going to get confused. Why most people can't make a good judgment is because they've engaged in premarital sex. Now, let me just tell you a little bit of psychology here. When you go physical, your body releases a bonding hormone called oxytocin. Oxytocin helps you to bond, but remember, you're bonding with someone you don't know yet. And so you just get confused. So you bond, but then you don't know them, so you start discovering things, then you understand other things later on, and then you get stuck. But also, I told you, it affects your judgment, because every time you see somebody's weakness, which you probably cannot put up with, then you remember, oh, you're operating more from an emotional standpoint or feeling standpoint than logic. And I've told you, it's so important that you know that marriage or dating or this relationship, it's a management issue. And so if you don't manage it well, it's likely to end in a very painful experience, as I shared earlier. So once again, I just want to encourage you to send in more questions. Please share as much as you want to share. We'll be very, very glad to answer your questions, and let's keep this conversation going. I want to guarantee you once again, it is very possible to have good relationships, good marriages in the 21st century. Thank you so much.